and welcome to Missed Checkpoints, the Video Game Book Club podcast. Today we're discussing, finally, Viewtiful Joe. I'm your host, Marqus, and joining me today, as always, are the homies. First up, we got Dante.
It's good.
What's up, man? Next, we got Trevor.
What's going on?
It's going pretty good. Excited to talk about this game. And last but not least, we got the homie Greg.
What's going on?
I'm ready. So I think I mentioned this before, but this game, way back when, in the summer of 2017, I guess when we were starting up this thing, this was a game that I had on my radar, a game that I had played, I don't know, many times, never to completion, but a game that I was pretty familiar with. And I was like, as soon as I find my copy of it, then I'm throwing it on a list. And I don't know what happened with my copy. So it took 4 years for me I never found it. So I just bought it on eBay. So here we are. So this is my game for the month of August. We're a little late. Bear with us. But I'm going to kick us off. I got a long introduction, pretty thorough. But, you're in for a treat. Viewtiful Joe is a side-scrolling beat-em-up developed by design staff Team Viewtiful, a part of Capcom Production Studio 4, and is yet another game among the infamous Capcom Five. For those unfamiliar, the Capcom Five were 5 games unveiled by Capcom in late 2002 with the goal of boosting hardware sales and showing off third-party developer support for the Nintendo GameCube, which at the time had failed to capture a significant market share. Try not to butcher these names, but Shinji Mikami, the director of Resident Evil, oversaw the project and, as the general manager of Capcom Production Studio 4, offered the studio's support. The games they were to develop were Dead Phoenix, a shoot-'em-up, PNO3, a futuristic third-person shooter, Resident Evil 4, a survival horror third-person shooter, Killer 7, which is a game that we've covered, a action-adventure game with first-person shooter elements, and Viewtiful Joe, a side-scrolling action platformer. Ultimately, Dead Phoenix was canceled. PNO3 was a critical and commercial failure. Resident Evil 3 went on to become one of the most influential and greatest games of all time. Killer 7 launched the career of Suda51, and Viewtiful Joe had a brief run before fading into oblivion, only to occasionally be dusted off to appear as a character or costume in Capcom's fighting games. I'm not salty about that. Viewtiful Joe was directed by Hideki Kamiya, and his credits, it was crazy going into the background of this because Capcom, they talent. So Hideki Kamiya includes, his credits include planning of Resident Evil 1. He was the director of Resident Evil 2 and Devil May Cry. He was director of the entire Viewtiful Joe series. Go ahead and say it out loud, Dante.
Sorry, it's Kamiya.
Kamiya, thank you. Yes, thank you. He directed Okami and he directed Bayonetta. And Viewtiful Joe was produced by Atsushi Inaba. His credits include programming Samurai Showdown, producing Steel Battalion, the entire Phoenix Wright series, the Viewtiful Joe series, Okami, God Hand, Mad World, Vanquish, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, Bayonetta 2, and Nier Automata.
Bangers.
I know. Like, these dudes, this is like some Capcom, like, what do they call it? Royalty, or like video game royalty. These guys have been in the games for years. But in the earliest stages of development, Viewtiful Joe went under the working title Red Hot Man, was changed due to copyright conflicts with the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Initially, the development team consisted of 6 people working under a 12-month deadline, but eventually the size of the team grew and took 21 months to complete. The game was conceived as a staff-focused project aimed at increasing the skill of its creators, especially director Kamiya. Producer Inaba stated they wanted to create a challenging game with stunning visuals and fluid gameplay. As a lifelong fan of superheroes, Inaba's aim was to combine traditional Japanese tokusatsu, or live-action film or TV drama that heavily uses special effects, with American comic books. Character designs were specifically inspired by 1960s and 70s Japanese costume tokusatsu TV shows such as Kamen Rider and Ultraman. Graphically, the game adopted a traditional 2D style, side-scrolling style mixed with 3D cel-shaded animation. The team chose GameCube as its platform because of the target audience and because it lent itself well to Viewtiful Joe's look and gameplay. In the game, players play Joe, an avid moviegoer whose girlfriend Sylvia is kidnapped during a film starring Joe's favorite superhero, Captain Blue. Sylvia is taken by the movie's villain and the leader of the villainous group known as Jado. Joe also gets sucked into Movie Land to rescue his girlfriend Sylvia. In the Movie Land, Joe is given a V-Watch from Captain Blue, which gives him the power to turn into a Tokusatsu-style persona, Viewtiful Joe. Combat consists of fighting multiple enemies that appear from all directions, including the foreground and background. Joe can double jump, punch, kick, dodge, in addition to his VFX powers, which are special powers granted for both combat and puzzle solving. Defeating enemies gives Joe small and large coins called V-Points, which can also be used between stages to purchase expendable weapons, new abilities, more health, and health restorative items. Defeating hordes of enemies in long combos earn you Viewtifuls or V-Marks, which help you get a higher ranking. At the end of the level, your various encounter rankings are tallied to give you a level ranking, which also adds to your V-Points. Viewtiful Joe was released June 26th of 2003 and received critical acclaim. The game's unique visual style, gameplay, and challenge were all common areas of praise among many reviewers. IGN named Viewtiful Joe GameCube Game of the Year, Best Action Game of that year. GameSpot Best of 2003. It was nominated for Best Artistic Achievement in Game, Coolest New Character, and Best GameCube Game. It won GameSpy's Most Stylish Award, Nintendo Power's Most Innovative Game Design, and it was highlighted at the 4th Annual GDC Awards as one of the 3 Game Innovation Spotlights. Despite the small budget and lower sales than Capcom predicted, the game was considered relatively successful commercially and spawned a few sequels as well as an anime adaptation and a manga series. And so that would conclude what I'm talking about Viewtiful Joe, but I really wanted to sell home who these people were that worked on this game. So Team Viewtiful would be rebranded as Clover Studio, aka Creativity Lover. So they took the C from creativity and matched it with Lover. In July 2004, during the development of Viewtiful Joe 2, they would develop all 4 Viewtiful Joe games, Viewtiful Joe 1, Viewtiful Joe 2, Viewtiful Joe Red Hot Rumble, and Viewtiful Joe Double Trouble, as well as Okami and God Hand. Viewtiful Joe 2 was a direct sequel, while Red Hot Rumble and Double Trouble were spin-offs. Despite being critical success, Okami failed to live up to Capcom's sales expectation, and God Hand did even worse. Compounding the problem, Clover's developers felt stifled under Capcom's corporate management because they were reluctant or actively opposed to risky new ideas. This led to Inaba, Mikami, and Kamiya resigning from Capcom in 2006 to form a new company, Seeds Inc., and Capcom shut down Clover Studios in early 2007. Seeds Inc. went on to merge with Odd Inc. in 2007 and rebranded as Platinum Games, makers of fine games such as Mad World, Bayonetta 1 and 2, Wonderful 101, Nier Automata, Astral Chain, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, and Vanquish. So, like, this was, like, the game that kind of started, like, we played a bunch of, I shouldn't say we've played it, like, on the podcast. We've only played Metal Gear Revengeance and Vanquish, but I think all of us have played a lot of these Platinum games. And so, like, this is what spawned Platinum. So it's because this was the game that all those guys worked together on and met each other and begun that partnership. So I thought that was really cool. Whew. Okay, so that's my intro. So we can go around the room, the virtual room. Trevor, do you have any background or history with Viewtiful Joe?
No.
Had you ever watched the manga, heard of him?
I think I may have watched either you or Dante, maybe somebody in the dorms play it once.
Probably me.
But I had never played it myself.
Okay. What about you, Trevor? What about you, Greg? What's your background with Viewtiful Joe?
So I had both games, and I only played the one maybe up until the playing it, and I think I may have turned on both those. I didn't even remember. Like I had to go look up to after you talked about it just to see what it looked like.
And what about you, Dante? What's your background with Beautiful Joe?
So I own the game for both the GameCube and PlayStation. I was one of those few exceptions where I actually bought two versions of the same game because they did add Dante to the PS2 version, which so played through both of those. I'd like to say I haven't played two, even though I own it, and I've heard of the spin-offs. I had literally no clue that there was an anime. I don't think I've ever heard of a Beautiful Joe. I checked it out on YouTube, and
A couple things. One, I believe I read that one of the spin-off games was running in parallel with the anime. So some of the things that happened in the anime either came from the game or vice versa. The other thing you mentioned, so I was doing some reading, and I want to say it was one of the developers. I don't remember if it was Anaba or Kamaya or me. One of the developers was very annoyed with Capcom when they decided to port over the Capcom 5 over to other consoles. Like they were under the impression that it was only going to be on GameCube. I think it was the Resident Evil guy. So I think it was
Kami.
yes, I think it was Shinji Mikami was so mad about Capcom deciding to port the games over that was kind of what led him to leaving. That was one of the deciding factors. But I did look up some of the differences between the GameCube version and PS2 version of Beautiful Joe. And like you said, yes, Dante was playable. I think he was playable once you beat the game on any difficulty. And then I saw that later on, like, I don't know how, but you can unlock a Dante and Trish mode. So basically, Dante is in place of Joe and Trish is in place of Sylvia. They added a new difficulty. So the GameCube version has from the jump, I think it has kids and adults difficulties. Once you beat adults, I think you get like V rated, and I think you get a harder difficulty when you beat that. Well, PS2 added Sweet, which was right underneath kids, so it was like a even easier version. And then the game loads faster and runs smoother with less slowdown on the GameCube. So it was optimized for GameCube, but I think the PS2 appeal was if you wanted to play as Dante, who he does play slightly different than Joe. Just his moveset is just a little bit different. So yeah, I mentioned it before, but I ended up getting this game. One of the things, this is one of those games where it's like, it's not stupid expensive on, well, I guess this is a 18-year-old game, and I got a GameCube version of it to play on my Wii, and I spent about $35 for a used copy, and that's on the lower end. I think I was seeing this game going anywhere from about $30 to $60, just depending on the eBay auction. So it is like I guess, is that cult classic kind of pricing? Because I think that was around what I got our next game for, but also I think that's around what I paid for Advance Wars as well. So I played on GameCube or Wii. What did you guys play on? I'll start with you, Dante.
Played it on GameCube. Via
Okay.
emulator this time. Full disclosure.
What about you, Trevor?
I picked up a copy on eBay for about $22 for the PS2.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing too. I don't know why, but the PS2 version is a little bit cheaper than the GameCube version. I'm not sure why. Maybe the load times, or I don't know. And then what
Because
about you?
didn't you say it came out later?
It did come out later, but like the game supposedly it was optimized for GameCube, so like the appeal for the PS2 version was Dante. So like getting an exclusive character. So to me, I would think that go ahead.
When you consider that PS2 outsold games, so I'm sure there's probably more copies just printed.
That's true. That's true. I didn't think about that. And what about you, Greg?
I played
The emulator. Do you know which version you played?
GameCube.
GameCube. Okay. So let's get into it. So I kind of mentioned it before, but the game starts and you're playing as Joe, or not even playing. You're watching a cutscene of Joe at the movies with his girlfriend. She doesn't necessarily seem like she wants to be there. She's just kind of getting dragged to the movie theater to watch this movie that Joe has seen probably countless times, and I think he says it's his favorite of it's his favorite Captain Blue movie, and I guess Captain Blue is a renowned or movie star, or was a movie star or whatever. But during the movie, Sylvia gets kidnapped by the movie as antagonist and is brought into the world of movies called Movie Land. And then with the help of a robot called Six Majin, or Six Machine, Joe is brought into Movie Land to save Sylvia. Unfortunately, when he enters Movie Land, he finds himself powerless to do anything. So he meets his hero, Captain Blue, and Captain Blue provides Joe with a V-Watch, which grants him superpower. And he tells Joe the way to activate the V-Watch is by saying the phrase Henshin. And because of the time, I feel like this is just like a early 2000s. Like Joe is definitely of the era of the time this game came out. And I think it also tries to sell him as like kind of like I don't know, like, I don't want to say badass. What's the word? What is Joe to you guys?
I mean, he tries to be like the cool guy, I guess.
It's just like attitude. He has all this attitude, and so
I mean, he's a nerd.
But he is a nerd. But it's like he overcompensates by like, I mean, wears his hat a certain way, and I don't know, like his whole aesthetic. Like, he is a nerd, but he thinks he's cool, I guess, right?
Yeah, he's just one of those nerds.
It's like when you walk into school and you know you got that new Beyblade on you, and nobody else knows you got it on you, but you know you got it on you.
So he says he says his catchphrase, Henshin-A-Go-Go, baby, which, yeah. And that activates his V-Watch and turns him into Viewtiful Joe, which actually, I didn't realize this. He didn't get the name Viewtiful until later in the game. So he was just Joe, even though he was wearing this, superhero costume. And from there, then you go into this pretty cool tutorial that, Captain Blue kind of shows you the basics. So he shows you how to punch and kick and dodge, and he shows you those things. And then you hit the ground running, and you get to just deal with some of the baddies.
I just want to say something about those tutorials.
Yeah, go ahead.
They were confusing. Because it's like when they show you any type of tutorial, they basically show you the button that you're supposed to press or hold and just have it like blinking or pulsing. So you don't know whether you're supposed to like tap it or hold. So I'm sitting there trying to figure out how to use this combination of buttons in order to do the moves that they're displaying on the screen. I had trouble with it. I don't know about y'all.
Anybody else going to die on this hill?
No.
I really enjoyed the tutorial. I thought it was like, for the most part, I thought it did a good job of like explaining the situations which you would do things.
Well, I just didn't like the way they showed it to you.
Well,
Like, if they would have spelled it out saying, hold this button to do this move, rather than trying to, make it pictorial.
I can kind of agree with you on one premise in that, like, they should have done a better job communicating that you're not supposed to tap the punch button. Aside from that, like, I was fine with it, but, Marcus, you had to give me the hint that
Yeah, but
you're not supposed
that's
to tap
a
the
very
punch when you're in slow-mo.
specific thing that I'm thinking of. Are you?
I don't
saying
even
like,
know if that was really covered in the...
No,
I mean, I
that
guess they
wasn't.
did.
That wasn't.
Well, it wasn't covered, but they did show you, like, to punch in slow-mo and stuff, I think.
Yeah, they did. But I don't know. Like I thought the game. I enjoyed the tutorial personally, but I'm coming from it. Like I guess I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, Trevor, because you're coming from this entirely sight unseen. I believe the three of us have at least played Viewtiful Joe. So I can see what you're talking about because I can think of a couple of instances like Dante alluded to where I didn't know this was a thing until I was on the internet reading because I was stuck. And yeah, so I won't die on the hill, but I see what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. But did you like the fact that you had to fight Captain Blue in order to like learn new things? Was that okay with you?
Oh yeah, that was fine. Like the pacing of it was slow enough to where I could figure out, like, oh, I'm not supposed to tap this button. I'm supposed to hold it. And he kind of like lets you learn the moves before. It was mostly just how they told you what buttons do what move. It wasn't necessarily the practice part of it. It was just the splash screen where it showed you the button rather than saying hold this button.
Gotcha. I don't remember. Okay, one of the things that I really like stood out to me, I thought this game like, so this is an older game. All media I consume, movies, TV shows, video games, like I like to play with subtitles, and this game did not have subtitles, and so that kind of like threw me off because I was like, there were times when I really wanted to know what people were saying, and I didn't have time to like pause it and write it down or whatever. But one of the things that struck me, I did like the humor in this game. One of the things that I liked that was said in the tutorial, I think it was Captain Blue said to Joe, was like, a real hero doesn't block, he dances out the way. And I don't know, this game reminded me somewhat of, actually, Joe reminds me, maybe not as creepy and horny as Travis, but it's very similar to No More Heroes. I think the humor in this game is very similar to that. I don't think it's as overtly sexual. I think it's more like jokey.
Just jumping back to the subtitle thing, real quick. I do find it ironic because I didn't even know this, that a game based on movies doesn't have subtitles.
Yeah.
That's interesting. That's a choice.
Yeah. But I just don't think it was a common setting to have. Like I think that's more of a. I think it's a more of a like. I don't know. I don't feel like old games, like I don't think it was until the next generation.
I feel like most of my PS2 games at least had subtitles. Like a lot of Nintendo stuff didn't really have that much dialogue, so I can't really say for sure there. But
yeah, I don't know. I felt like they were more prominent to me in the 360, PS3, Wii era, personally.
It might just be, I guess they thought about it then, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, from there you hit the ground running and you are fighting enemies. Like I said earlier, you're earning coins and V points. You start doing these missions. I don't really know how to describe them, but they're really in level missions where a woman's voice says start or something like that, and you fight like a I think you always know how many enemies you're fighting because I think it's displayed, but you're just fighting a set number of enemies, and you're graded V being the best, the S equivalent, the S rank, A, B, C, D, and they're based on the V points you earn, the defense as a rating, so basically how much damage you took, and the time it took you to do it, so how fast you complete it, and yeah, so then that will determine your rank in that particular segment of the level, and those just keep going through the level, and at the end of the level, you get your overall rank. So it's very similar to like the action adventure games we played before, the Metal Gear Rising, Revengeance, and the Ninja Gaiden. Y'all know how I feel about this, but how did you guys feel about like the ranking system? Did you feel like it was fair? Did you enjoy it? Did it throw you off guard seeing it in a 2D game?
I think at first I was a little bit worried about, it was like kind of, the further I got into it, I was like, all right, well, clearly I'm not going to get like V on everything. So I'm just going to like try to play as, yeah, I mean, I don't think it added to my enjoyment, but it also didn't take it.
What about you, Trevor?
Yeah, I'm kind of with Greg. I really didn't pay that much attention to it. especially after like the first two episodes, because I thought there would at least be a point where you could go back and replay like part of it to get a better score. But since you couldn't do that, I was like, it's not worth trying to, you know, just rack my brain about it, you know. So I just kind of just played it on my own terms. If I finished a level, I did beautiful.
What about you, Dante?
Yeah, my views pretty much align with what they said. You look at the score and you're like, well, yeah, they want me to play a very certain type of way. If I don't play this exact way, I'm probably not going to get a or whatever. I'm not really going to worry about it at all. So,
Gotcha. Um, I try not to look too deep into it, but like I always one of the things that I don't like about rankings personally, and I didn't feel it until later on in this game is like I feel like I'm just like it's telling me that the way I'm playing the game is like I always feel like when I get that feedback, it's like the way you're playing this game is wrong because you didn't get a high enough rank, and I always feel like I'm either playing too slow or if I'm keep on getting low rankings, there's something that I haven't figured out to make it easier or to give me to complete something quicker because I think usually that is my it's the time component usually is where I in games that give you ranking I usually take a lot longer and so I always feel like getting that feedback is like discouraging sometimes. One of the things too I wanted to say you guys were talking about the V ranks so I sort of alluded to it earlier but so there are unlockable characters in this game so when you beat the game on adults difficulty you unlock Sylvia, but then you also unlock the V-rated difficulty. And when you beat the game on V-rated, you get Alistair the Stylish, which is the purple demon dude that looks like Joe with the devil horns. And when you beat V-rated mode, you get Ultra V mode. And if you beat that, then you unlock Captain Blue. And Captain Blue is supposedly a beast. He's like the most powerful character in the game. But if you beat the game, I think you can do it with Joe and Alistair. But if you beat the game, I think it has to be on, I think it has to be on adults. Yeah, if you do it on adults, V-rated or ultra V-rated, you get a super version of the character you're using. So like, they call it a Rainbow V run, which means that you beat the game only getting Vs. For every single mission, every single level. And then you get a version of the character that doesn't lose meter. Or like the meter is infinite. So that was like a really interesting thing that I saw. Because I was like, thinking about the replayability. And I know like a lot of people like really, really enjoy Ninja Gaiden and really, really enjoy Devil May Cry. And they beat the game multiple times. And I feel like I didn't realize this game had similar to that same through line in it as well. So I just thought that was interesting.
yeah, the whole rating system is a direct riff off of Devil. Greg
Well,
might correct me on this, but I think Devil May Cry typically like popularized the whole like C, B, A, and then S up to triple S, and then this.
Yeah, I think so.
well, I mean, there were people that worked on that game, so I wouldn't call it a rip off. More like we did it on here, we're gonna do it on this game too.
Well, yeah, I mean, literally, Alistair is Dante's sword in Devil May Cry 1, so, yeah,
I
when I
thought
said
his
rip-off,
things
I
were
just
called
mean,
like Ebony and Ivory or something like that. Are those his guns?
those are the guns.
Hey, gotcha. But yeah, so other things that you get. So I talked about the V Watch, and the V Watch runs on a meter, and the V Watch grants you VX powers. So when you have meter, you have access to these VX powers, and so you have slow, which, as it sounds, it slows down the game and allows you to do react to things. It changes how some hits work. What else does it do? It allows you to move things. It slows down time. Joe's attacks get more powerful. His reflexes are increased, and it's easier to dodge attacks. You also have Mach speed, which gives Joe the ability to move at incredible speed. His attacks are a bit weaker, but because he's so fast, he can take out enemies very easily. He also, because he's so fast, if he punches or attacks repeatedly, he can catch on fire and attack things and catch them on fire as well. And when you upgrade this, it also creates even more multiple versions of you, and they can attack things in the background and attack enemies, and from other angles as well. And then later on in the game, this is a little bit later, you get this ability called Zoom In, which is like the style mode or the style attacks in this game. And what happens is you zoom in on Joe, so you see less of the screen, but then his attacks are more stylish. They're more swaggy, as the kids say, and his attacks do different things now. So he has a spinning kick attack instead of his normal attack. He also gets access to some air moves that he doesn't normally have, and like his punch changes as well. And this in zoom in mode is pretty good by itself, but then when you pair it up with one of the other abilities, so you can do slow and zoom in, you can do Mach speed and zoom in, but you can't do slow and Mach speed. So you can kind of stack everything with zoom in, but other than that, you're using the things by themselves.
Actually, I could be wrong about this, but like if you're in water and you slow-mo and Mach speed, you move faster.
Wait, why don't you just Mach speed?
Because sometimes you're trying to dodge stuff. Like when I was fighting that shark boss, or no, it was in the sewers where I had to do it for some certain reason. It was fighting the little desperado dude, and sometimes you need to be in slow-mo to dodge his stuff, but at the same time, it helps to hit fast forward so you move faster in the water.
Well, I did not know that. So yeah, what did you guys think about these powers, and how did they? What did you like? What they could do for you? I'll start with you, Greg.
I liked them for the most part. I felt like, as far as combat, pretty helpful in general.
Let's talk strictly combat. By the way, sorry, strictly combat.
Okay. For combat, I liked them. I guess the only thing that was kind of weird for me, that meter by finding
film canisters or something. Yeah. So like you have the way the game is set up is you have like a limited. I'll just throw out a number. You can use a VX power without. When you use a VX power, you maybe have 7 seconds uninterrupted of time that you can use it. And after those 7 seconds, once you drain that meter, then it has to recharge itself. So the way they have these collectibles in the game, they're film canisters, and if you collect X number of them, I think the number is always 50. When you collect 50, you get more and more added to your VX meter. So by the time you're at the end of the level, instead of having 7 seconds of VX power usage, you may have 17 seconds. So it adds more time that you can hold that button down and have access to these abilities. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So in general, I did like the powers, and I felt like they were all very useful. Maybe to like some, maybe more. In general, like the only complaint that I would have about it is I kind of wish the meter transferred over through levels, and maybe they could do that, making it an upgrade, pick up those film canisters all the time. But I guess it kind of plays into kind of like looking.
Yeah, I personally think that's what it was, because otherwise, like, it would make the later levels a lot easier if you're already starting off with
that boss rush thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. What about you, Trevor? How'd you feel about the VFX powers?
I thought they were cool. I liked the animations. I really didn't like the zoom in feature.
What? How come? I have an idea why, but how come you didn't?
A little small thing, just tiny detail. You can't see anything around you. Like, I don't know how this passed like testing.
Well, I think it's balanced in the way that they know you get a damage buff in it, and they just kind of always, we want you to use this at times.
Well, when you start to use the like the, what do you call it? The up attack. I can't remember the names of any of the moves, but the ones where like you turn pink and you do like
the drill.
Yeah, the drill.
Oh, the jump. So when you're in zoom in and you jump.
Yeah, or you like you smash down.
Yeah.
Those I would prefer to be able to see because sometimes you're either trying to hit an enemy or you're trying to hit something in the environment to break it. But that's just me, I guess.
No, I kind of see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I'm with Trevor on this one where, like, I get that, they want it to be balanced and stuff and, like, they don't want you to abuse it. But at the same time, like, when you're trying to use it, there are situations where, like, you think you're using it correctly, but since Joe is so stubby and doesn't have any reach whatsoever, like...
We talking about Marvel or we talking about...
You zoom in and you don't hit anything, and then you're just like, man, well, now I have to wait.
Yeah, it took me a little while to get used to his reach. Because
lack of reach.
I'm sitting here thinking, okay, let me punch. And he's going to, like, at least lunge forward just a little bit. No, he just throws it right there in front of him.
If his reach was like 10% better than it was,
and then like
I feel like that would alleviate.
Y'all tripping.
Well, it became a problem for me because I tried to do a lot of aerial combos up until I got the sliding attack, and I don't know if we want to talk about the unlockable attack.
We'll talk about it soon. We'll talk about it too.
I was doing a lot of aerial combos. And once you do that, you're kind of suspended in the air. And so if an enemy is just outside of your reach, you really don't have anything to like extend to reach that enemy. And then because they're moving in slow motion, they could be coming towards you. But because they're not coming fast enough, you basically have to sit there and waste your meter, waiting for them to come to you.
Nobody used the slide attack at all? Like close the distance?
Well, that's what I was saying. Like up until I got that.
I got you.
Yeah. It took me a while to get used to it.
Y'all know this is a fighting game, right?
No.
I'm not talking about like a 2D. Like it's a beat 'em up though. Like it's not an action adventure game. It's a beat 'em up, and like I can't think of how many times I was playing a beat 'em up in the 90s where I'm like punching at a character, and because I'm spamming this attack, they're not walking into my range. So then that means that I have to reposition myself.
Yeah, but it doesn't feel good at all in this game. That's the thing.
But you at least have like where you can double tap to start sprinting.
Okay, a shoulder charge.
Yeah, something like that. Whereas here,
you're right.
And in other brawlers, the characters have reach. That's the thing. Like you can do a kick in like Streets of Rage or whatever, where like, oh, I can at least reach, maybe 2 of my body lengths out there if I really need to. Whereas Joe, his arm, it's literally like maybe, I don't even know how to describe that distance. It's so nominal.
But the thing I will say is, you're right, the distance on this is not great, but I think that is just based off the proportions that they have for the characters in this game. Because he doesn't have any less range than a lot of the main enemies you fight. When we talk about bosses, obviously the bosses have more range.
All the enemies have like ways to get in on you though. Like
they have ways to get in on you, but they don't have range though.
They do. They got rocket launchers. They got guns. They got.
I'm not talking about the bosses though. I'm talking about the regular enemies
I'm talking about the regular enemies.
The ones that you can dodge. You can literally just run away from them and not have to dodge. Like you have enough time to run out of their attack range and not have to dodge. You know what I'm saying? The dudes that spin, any of the normal like white-faced fodder enemies with the little googly eyes or whatever, like those enemies are built the same way that Joe is built, with the same exact proportions, and they have the same exact issues that Joe has.
No. They have a lot more potential as far as like ranged attacks go. Like,
I don't know about that, dog.
The tornado has an actual like AoE of some sort. The pink people, they jump up in the air and then they can jump down and have that electrical AoE, which is like darn near half the screen, if not more. But there's like enemies with guns. There's enemies with rocket launchers. There's plenty of regular foot soldier enemies that have ranged tools.
But you have,
whereas Joe just has the boomerang and the bomb.
You have the boomerang and the bomb. You have a slowed down, zoomed in ground pound when you're in the air, and you do that. You have an AoE as well with your slow zoomed in kick as well that does a whole 360 around your body. That is a lot larger range and radius than your normal kick and your normal punch. You also have the slide attack that Trevor was talking about. You also have red hot kick, which is an angled kick that goes until you land. So it's basically you have a dive kick. I think like maybe you weren't utilizing all the options you had, but like Joe has options.
He does not have. No, not really. Like, I disagree.
Greg,
What's up?
was Joe's range or lack of range on his normals a problem for you?
Sometimes, but I wouldn't say it was like to a point where it became a big annoyance. Like I think I was using the slide kick more to close distance. And as far as like the air stuff, I didn't really find it. Well, okay. Well, sometimes it's a bit annoying in the air, but
I think the thing with the air is like when you jumped, you have your jump arc. But the moment you hit an attack, you no longer have your forward momentum. So if you were short on, like, if you hit the punch button too soon or the kick button too soon, you lost all your forward momentum and then you were just dropping. And then you could only just kind of somewhat control your, if you're falling left or right. But I will agree that, like, you could, like, oh, I thought I had more range and I didn't end up hitting this person that I was trying to. I'm thinking of those helicopter dudes, the green dudes with the helicopter rotors on their back. Not the helicopter itself, but those dudes. There was a couple times when like I jumped up, like maybe I even double jumped and I tried to swing on one, but either he got out of my range or like I hit the button too soon and I missed. But at that point, I'm just like, okay, like I'm just going to hit the ground. I'm going to do it again. Like it never was an annoyance for me the way I guess it was for you guys. And I feel like you're underselling. I don't know. Maybe you didn't buy the slide, Dante, or maybe you didn't buy Red Hot Kick. And I remember watching, I don't think you had, at least when I was watching you play, you didn't have the Shocking Pink or the boomerangs, the bomb or at the points that I was watching you play. So I think you didn't have some of the range options. But like
I got everything by the end of the game.
Yeah, by the end of the game. But like I'm saying, like I think when I was watching you play the Magnificent Five, you didn't have any of those things. So
I definitely had them by then because I was just upgrading.
Sure. Well, I would say like it just didn't seem like that was something in your play style when I was watching you play. Well, but granted, you wouldn't use those on bosses. It seems so
heavily biased towards slow-mo, zoom-in punch.
Yeah.
So
I'll agree with that. That's definitely for the big damage. Yeah. I don't know. I definitely I definitely think Joe's range, his attack range isn't like ideal, but they give you more than enough tools to offset that, so it's not an issue. Like I said, they give you the slide. When you do the zoom in jump attack, you can angle it so it's not just straight up. You can do it at a 45-degree angle, up forward or up back. So like he has like that kick, which like I said is a lot further range than his normals are. So he has options, I think, anyways. And I guess now that we're talking about it, let's talk about the upgrades. Well, actually, before we do that, the only last thing is just I really did enjoy how the VFX, I personally liked how the abilities, the slow, the mock speed, and zoomed were used in puzzles as well. I thought some of them were really clever, even in some of the bosses as well. I didn't know until I was stuck on the Magnificent Five that when you did fast forward that you could destroy stuff in the background. So I went through majority of this game not knowing that, not realizing that. But I liked some of the things where it's like, oh, if you slow down, what were you about to say?
I was going to say that was my favorite part of the game.
The puzzle stuff?
Yeah, being able to use the abilities for different things in the game.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, now you're standing on something with a hover, like a platform that has a rotors on the bottom. If you slow down, it'll slow down, and that means it's not spinning as fast, so it's going to lose air, or and so you can hop on top of it, and then you can fast forward, and it's going to go up faster. It's moving faster, so you're going up higher. Or same thing at how it affected enemies, where it's like explosions got bigger if you did the slow motion, so they did more damage, or bullets and shots got from the Six machine and like any type of aerial planes, when they did their shots, they would get bigger. I don't know. I really enjoyed I don't know if Dante would call them puzzles, but I really enjoyed how the VFX stuff affected the environment. I thought that was a really cool touch.
Yeah, they're definitely puzzles. They actually like it. Although some of them I don't. I normally don't have to look up guides for stuff, but
You were puzzled?
I mean that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good puzzle. That just
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Well, I think the thing is that I really enjoyed is like nothing ever. I won't say ever, but like they did a good job of varying it up. So it wasn't like they were doing the same puzzle from the beginning of the game to the end.
Yeah.
You know? There was a decent variety and like, oh, this time this slow power does this time this slow power does this, or you use it this way to punch this thing up so you can run underneath, and then this time you use slow and it makes this explosion bigger so that you do more damage to this door, or, you know, things like that. It wasn't just like, oh, this is the 5th time I had to uppercut this thing and run underneath it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Marqus, cool. Okay, and now we can talk about the upgrade system. So I know, Trevor, you wanted to talk about that. So like we talked about earlier, you earn coins and V points, which you can use in between levels and sections of levels to upgrade Joe. These upgrades, I think I had mentioned before, like you can get new items. So like the boomerang or the shocking pink, which is a bomb that Joe can throw out. You can upgrade your health. You can get more life. You can get new abilities. I think there was and upgrade how many Joes appear when you do the Mach speed, or you can upgrade how fast your VFX meter recharges. So what did you want to talk about, Trevor?
It was mostly just how like a lot of the things that you can unlock really changed the dynamic of combat. Because before you unlock them, you're really limited on what you can do. At least I felt like I was. I think it was the boomerang when I originally bought it. I just got it on like a whim, and I was like, "Oh, let me go on ahead and just buy this and try it out." And I think I used it on the boss, and it took out a bunch of health off of him. I don't remember exactly how many I unlocked after that. I know I tried to unlock all of the combos, and that's why I was doing a lot of aerial combos throughout the game.
Mm-hmm. I was upgrading my character to make it more tanky so I could take more hits. So I had a bunch more hit points and or what do you call like hits that I could take. Mm-hmm. I also had upgraded my Mach speed all the way to the max, so I had the most amount of Joes would appear when I was doing that. I had there was the one, I think it was called Ukemi, where if you took a hit and you did the zoom in ability right before you hit the ground, Joe would do a flip and take either less damage or no damage. It was very, very difficult to do timing wise, but I thought that was really cool. And then the cool thing too, like obviously this didn't apply to me because I suck at games that give you grades, but if you mastered that ability, it didn't detract from your ranking, so you wouldn't take any damage. Then you could still technically get a V grade if you mastered that. But it was a tight timing, but I thought that was really cool, a cool touch. What about you guys, Greg?
As far as like the upgrade system,
Yeah, like what did you go for, and how did you feel about the variety that was provided?
felt like it was pretty good. I think I favored the combo, like so getting more and life. So I think those are the things. I think I don't even think I used the bombs, which I think was probably something I messed things a little bit. But yeah, for the most part, it was just combat health. I did want to try Ukemi, but I didn't want to. I guess I didn't get it, but I thought about trying it though. I just didn't know how useful it was going to be in general.
Oh well, I didn't save up. I grinded by dying a lot.
Well, so that's another positive too. Well, I guess I don't know. I guess it's kind of a positive, and like you do keep your points even if you lives and
You get a game over. Yeah.
Yeah, so at least that kind of helps out a little bit. Yeah, definitely. I don't know about y'all, but I definitely died a lot.
Yeah, yeah. And what about you, Dante?
I don't know. I don't feel like there was stuff to unlock, but it didn't really feel like there was that much.
Would you say I don't disagree with you, but like was it like would you have liked to see more items or would you like to see more combo or like moves? Like what did you feel like it was missing?
That's a good question. I guess I would have liked to see more moves because I really do feel like everything at the end of the day was either a punch or a kick. Like it comes back to doing a punch or a kick most of the time. And admittedly, like you said, I didn't use those upgrades quite as much as I probably should have, but at the same time, the reinforcement the game was giving me was saying zoom in punch if you really want to take out any of these enemies. Mm-hmm. So,
can I ask you something?
Go ahead.
Was that how you played after I watched you after the Magnificent Five? Doing the zoom in punch, like doing the zoom in punch. So like
you told me about that
when you were on the Magnificent Five.
I thought no, you told me that earlier than Magnificent Five. I'm pretty sure it might have been.
I don't think so because I watched you fight the shark boss on the submarine level. I watched you play that level.
I feel like you told me to tap on him, but I could be wrong or stop tapping.
I told you didn't want the advice.
I said that was when I learned how effective the zoom in was on bosses. Mm-hmm. Was on the shark boss.
I didn't learn how effective it was fully until the Magnificent Five because I was stuck on them and I was just like, what can I do to? So I knew the zoom in plus slow was good, but I was tapping and not holding until I got frustrated with the Magnificent Five.
Yeah, and like that is such a night and day difference between tapping and holding, and I just wish the game communicated that up front early on, like, hey, hold the A button unlike every other beat 'em up in existence ever, you know?
Yep. So I don't really want to go beat by beat with the game. If that's cool with you guys. I thought it would be nice to have like a less not as lengthy podcast for a change.
Totally for that.
You said what?
I'm totally for that.
Okay, good. So I did want to ask you guys some questions. There was one thing that Dante had said though, and I'm trying to remember. I can't remember right now. But what were some things that you did enjoy about the game? And I'll start with you, Greg. What were the things you enjoyed about this game? Why did you like, or what did you like about this game?
The first thing, I guess, first impressions were like I really like the art style. I'm trying to remember if there was a lot of like to me.
I was at one point I was like, this was like one of the first in my head. I was like, this had to be one of the first or cell shaded games. But I had a list at some point. I will look it up while you're talking because there was quite a lot of games that came out prior to this game that were also shell shaded. I don't know how successful or to what extent they were shell shaded, but there was quite a lot of games that were.
You've got
maybe that was just a thing.
Yeah, you got Wind Waker, which I'm trying to think if Wind Waker was announced before this game started development. I think Wind Waker had like a cycle, so I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they partially got inspired by that. There is Cell Damage for the original Xbox. I think Okami was later.
Here, I got a list. I got a list.
Game that was cell shaded.
So I think it says, so this is Wikipedia, so take this with a grain of salt, but it says the very first, it's not citing it as the innovators, but Mega Man Legends in 97. And Misadventures of Tron Ball 99. Obviously the Jet Set Radio series or game, Mega Man Legends 2. Bomberman Online, Cell Damage, like Dante said, Fur Fighters. There's some Harvest Moon games, Monster Rancher. Like I'm just naming like bigger games that people would recognize. The Budokai series, like the first one came out in 2002. Jet Set Radio Future. I was wrong. Wind Waker was 2002. Yeah, Black and Bruised. I remember seeing that game. So there was a decent amount of games that came out prior to Beautiful Joe that were shell shaded.
So yeah, I thought the slowdown mechanic, I like the to me. I think. Oh, the boss fights. For the most part, I felt like the boss fights were pretty varied. I mean, they all kind of came down to the same type of strategy, but as far as like their patterns, they're all.
What about you, Trevor? What did you like or enjoy about this game?
I really enjoyed the level design and like the mechanic of being able to use the like your different moves to go through the environment. Sometimes it was frustrating. Like there was I think the first time you get, no, it wasn't the first time, but there's a point where you can get like a radio, and it makes
Yeah,
the floating platforms follow you.
that was probably one of the puzzles Dante was talking about.
And I think it was actually the second time you get to a point where you use that, and you have to like get past those bombs on the submarine.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really frustrating. But once I discovered that, I was just like, oh, I know exactly what they want me to do now. Because at that point, like you've learned that you can speed up or slow down time to make the platform rise and lower. But then you also had to contend um, with the bombs that were coming in, and then the enemies weren't that bad. They were pretty minor compared to the bombs that you had to dodge, but it was certain levels like that, and then there were also the one where you're it may have been like episode 2 where you're navigating that mansion.
Yeah, yeah.
And there are certain things you have to do in order to get to the next floor, like using the elevator.
Trying to think.
Some of those are pretty cool, like where you
Destroying the wall. The
yeah,
floor
you had to
above
break the
you.
wall and or use the bomb to blow up the ceiling and jump up in order to get to the next floor. But there are certain things like that I really liked what they did with the environment. During combat, the environment does get a little confusing. But other than that, I that was my favorite part of the game was just the environment and what you could do in it.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Dante?
So, I think I liked a lot of their intent on just about everything. So, I thought there are good parts of the level design for sure. And there are good parts of the level design. I like the combat flow and what they were trying to do with the whole dodge mechanic and how they try to balance your meter usage versus like offense and defense and how they reward you for doing dodges and kind of playing skillfully. I like the boss. I like the premises of the boss. I don't like how the bosses are actually executed most of the time, but I think they're unique.
Okay. I gotta echo a lot of what you guys said. I really like the visuals of the game. I thought the visuals were really cool, and really interesting and just colorful and bright. And I think they even down to the part where they were like doing a movie effects and I don't know unless you look at screenshots or gameplay of the game to see how it looks like how it's intended. It is a movie, they do a really good job of capturing that Japanese action film style that they were trying to go for with the visuals, plus the comic book with the big graphics that say pow and boom and like all those things. I thought that was really like a cool effect and just something that I really enjoyed. I personally enjoyed the combat. I never felt like I was overwhelmed with like too many options. I do feel like I think Trevor mentioned it earlier, but like how when you're upgrading, you're adding more tools to your belt basically, and like I felt like as I was playing through the game and adding more abilities, like I was implementing those and not just like, oh, I bought this thing and I'm never going to use it. Like I felt like I was using the things as I was getting them, and I could see like, oh, and I'm going to use it in this instance, or this is an instance where I deal with this situation a lot. So even though I want these two moves, I'm going to get this one because I feel like it's more applicable to the types of the way I fight right now. So I thought that was really cool. So I really did enjoy combat. And like Trevor said too, I really, really enjoyed how the powers worked, not only in combat, but especially in the platforming or the puzzle aspect of the game. And I did mention it earlier, but I liked how there wasn't a lot of retreads of like, oh yeah, this is that puzzle. Like, not to boo on a game we previously played, but like, I know it's something Dante had said about Raji was like, it's the same puzzle every single time, and that never pops up really in this game. You know, like it's, oh, you're using this power in this way now, or using this power in this way, and so I thought that was really cool. Did you guys? I talked about it earlier. I don't remember if you guys said anything about it, but how did you guys feel about Joe, the character, and then also just like the humor in this game? Because I don't necessarily think this game was like super jokey, but like in some of the writing and some of the references, like they do break the fourth wall. It almost kind of seems like Joe is like I don't want to say Deadpool, or because he's not that extreme, but like there are moments where he breaks the fourth wall, or the game breaks the fourth wall. Did that stand out to you guys? Can you guys even remember that stuff? And if so, how did you feel about it?
To me, I guess it didn't. Maybe it just kind of. So I didn't really like know.
That's fair.
Go ahead, Trevor.
I was just gonna agree with Greg. I didn't really notice it that much. Like I kind of saw it happening, but only like in passing, like maybe with like a comment that Joe says. But
it wasn't like super in your
Are you
face.
guys blind? This entire game was that.
Are you telling me this is another?
Yes, my dude. That last level was Star Wars. Did you not notice?
Oh,
what are you guys talking about?
Well,
I mentioned that to Marcus before we started recording, so I didn't actually get to the last level.
Yeah, Trevor didn't get past the Magnificent Five.
I thought I finished the game, and then it was like, no, your princess is in another castle.
Oh snap! They gate kept you for doing the kids mode. That's fun.
Dang, he's clowning on you.
Kids mode.
Did you play on kids mode?
I thought it was the normal difficulty. It was the one in the middle.
That's kids mode.
Oh, I didn't know it was supposed to be easy because there were sweet kids and adult.
Yeah, so the GameCube version just has kids and adults. They actually added sweet to my understanding.
So we had normal or hard essentially, and you had easy, normal, and hard. Well,
yeah, it sounds like it.
I'm not even gonna say normal or hard. I'm gonna say like more like probably. I don't know. Because I think ultimately on the GameCube version there is 4 difficulties, and there's going to be there's 5 on the PlayStation version. But I don't know which one they deem is the normal mode and which one they deem is easy. They didn't say like adults mode is the way the game is meant to be played, you know. So I have no idea.
It was only implied by the lights on the character select screen, but
I mean, I feel that. I agree with you. I'm just trying not to throw shade at my boy.
But yeah, sorry. That was a little bit of a sidetrack from the whole thing. Like, so this entire game is another, I mean...
He's right.
Where do I even start? Like, they're going to the movies. They got brought into the movie world. He's rescuing the damsel in distress. He meets his mentor, who is a washed-up has-been, gets his power. Pretty much every single scene that you have with a boss character is breaking the fourth wall. A lot of levels are metaphors for direct movie comparisons. Like, I'm pretty sure the one shark dude's supposed to be kind of like Jaws. There's a Star Wars level. There's a lot of stuff like that throughout the game. And then, what else was that I want to say?
So let me ask this. Is he breaking the fourth wall of the game, or is he breaking the fourth wall of the movie within the game?
Both. Like, that's... like the whole Viewtiful Joe thing is just a love letter to that type of dude that wears his hat backwards and goes to the movies nonstop and probably recommends a lot of niche things to his friends.
Yeah, I think the movies they kind of reference kind of speak to that. The very, very beginning of the way the game starts is like very grainy and like kind of like this guy taking his girlfriend on a date to this movie that nobody else is in except for the two of them. Dante is 100% right.
Yeah, like they even that last scene where, like, not to jump too much ahead, but it's like, isn't this where the plot twist comes in?
Yep.
And then like when Sylvia starts doing stuff, they're like, oh my god, the damsel in distress. Oh, okay.
It looks like there's going to be a sequel, or they say something like that. It's the
music AMV at the end of that game.
Yeah, yep.
The music video. Check that box.
Yeah, Dante is 100% right. Is this how you felt when we played No More Heroes?
I mean, more or less. Like, I think this is a better.
Yes, go ahead and say it. Say it.
I think I enjoyed my time with the No More Heroes more, but...
Oh, wait. No, don't say it. Cut the tape.
Like, I think this is a better game, but I think I personally enjoyed No More Heroes a little bit more.
I think the references land better in No More Heroes. So, like, the things that they are mentioning, referencing, paying homage to, all that, I think lands better with No More Heroes. I think that... partly, I'm just gonna say it, they probably took note of how Viewtiful Joe did it. So like Viewtiful Joe I'm not saying the originator as in they were the first game to do it, but they took some of the lessons and things that Viewtiful Joe kind of showed and like paved the way for and took it a step further. So they had a blueprint to work from.
Yeah,
but I agree with you. But I guess it didn't land because Trevor was like, what? Greg was like, what?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's breaking the fourth wall as much as it's making just references. Like, in some of those instances where they were like, I guess there's going to be a sequel. If they said a line like that, then yeah, that would be breaking the fourth wall. But at the same time, they're also a movie within a game. So...
Yeah. There's times when it breaks the fourth wall, and they mention. I think the fourth wall breaking is more when they mention that we are in movie land and we're trying to get into the real world and blah 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 blah. But there are specific scenes. I don't remember who it was. I want to say it was Blade Master Alistair. He breaks the fourth wall and reads the manual to Joe and reveals their entire plan and plot against Joe and the player. He reads the plot to Joe, or let me rephrase that. Reads the entire plan / plot against Joe, and he's reading it to you, the player. So like there are points like that. Again, like Dante said at the very end of the game, the whole I think you didn't see this, Trevor, but Captain Blue is actually Sylvia's father. Spoilers. Again, direct reference to Star Wars. Also. Plus the fact that that entire level's on a space station and all this stuff. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of references to other things. Like I said, I think that No More Heroes is a little bit more in your face about it, and does it? Go ahead.
I just contest that because I feel like this game was all like. This game does a lot of that.
It does. I guess.
I will say it's to an equal caliber. I don't know. The only thing they could have done more in my eye is like Joe just turned to the camera and just winked at you, pretty much.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like we all recognized it in No More Heroes, and this game only half of us did. So that to me, that accounts for something. You know? Yeah. Beyond that, I guess so. Trevor, you didn't finish the game, but Greg and Dante, you guys did.
Yeah.
What did you guys think about the ending and how it kind of ended on a kind of, I don't want to say cliffhanger, but it was like next time on, not even next time on, but it was just kind of like hinting at like, oh, well, if the game's, it almost was like, and this is a deep cut, but like when we played Psychonauts, how it was like, gearing up for the next adventure. Like, that's kind of how the game ended. How did you guys feel about that ending?
I guess like playing it now, it doesn't really have much weight to it because you already kind of know that. But like maybe if I was playing this at the time out, it probably would have been pretty cool to be like, oh, okay, well, there's more of this. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of like, we kind of already knew that.
What about you, Dante?
No, I don't have anything really to say about it. Like, I don't think this story per se was like why I was there. So
yeah,
there's no way they could have disappointed or I guess super got me excited strictly on a story basis.
I thought it was really cool that they, probably not realistic probably, but like how Sylvia was like going along with Joe to this movie that she didn't really care about. She wanted to, I think they said in the movie, or she said in the theater, I'd rather just make out and have some alone time with you, Joe. And things like that. And then by the end, she had been kidnapped. He saves her. And then she gets a V-Watch. And now she's like, let's go kick some butt. I thought that was kind of cool and definitely kind of felt like a little progressive for the time, where it's just like, oh, like you wouldn't think a dude like Joe would be down for this, but he seemed like really cool about that. And like, so they were like going to kick butt together and not like, oh no, I have to save you, I'm the guy, or anything like that. So I thought that was kind of cool. Personally, I think that I am very interested, and I kind of wish I had bid on one of the auctions that had both games, because I'm definitely intrigued. It doesn't seem like we're getting a Viewtiful Joe anytime soon, so I'm definitely intrigued to see what goes on in the second game. But did this game prompt you guys? The ending, probably not, but just the game itself. Do you guys have any interest in playing a Viewtiful Joe sequel, the second game?
I don't know if I would do it outside of the podcast. Somehow doing it.
Dang, it's the only way you would play Viewtiful Joe is through a pod. Okay.
See,
I thought you liked the game.
Outside this podcast.
I thought you liked the game.
No, it's fun. It's just, I mean, like I said, I've been outside of.
That's fair. That's fair. I mean, it'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah.
I have the exact inverse answer. Like, I will never vote for it on a podcast list, but I might play it on my own time at some point.
I'm curious. What is the reasoning?
I just don't think it would be an interesting thing to talk about.
Okay, that's fair. What about you, Trevor? You have any interest in the Viewtiful Joe sequel?
I guess I'll have to find out when I finish Viewtiful Joe 1.
So that means you're going to replay it?
No, that means Trevor would be like, yeah, I'll finish this game, after we're done with this episode. But I bet you've done that like once, to be honest.
There's been at least 2 times I finished the game.
2 out of how many?
Man, like
that's
4
probably like you batting like no, you probably batting like less than 25%, my dude.
Reclaiming my time.
So interesting fact. So I had mentioned to you guys that Platinum Games, or the creators of Viewtiful Joe, the former Clover Studio team, is now Platinum Games. There's been some noise in the past, I would say, year and some change. I would say, I think March 2020 was some of the first information, and then I think there was another rumbling earlier this year. Kamiya, Hideki Kamiya, the director, or one of the developers for the game, is very, very interested in revisiting Viewtiful Joe. I think he really would like to complete the trilogy and come out with a third game. But right now, I think Capcom owns the rights to Joe, and they have to. Basically, the ball is in Capcom's court. I'm hoping at the very least they do the old. We'll see how much interest there is, and maybe do some type of remaster for the 2 games, and hopefully that would convince them that there is interest in a Viewtiful Joe 3. But I don't know if there's any any plans for now. There was that game Wonderful 101, which came out I think on the Wii U, and they just did a remaster, just as in like I think within the past year, did a remaster of it on Switch. That was a platinum game joint, and that was a what do they call it? A inspired by the spiritual successor to Viewtiful Joe. So they kind of got to scratch their itch of having that Japanese action superhero style. But I think that one was like, oh, you're playing as a horde of enemies. I thought about, like, after hearing about that game, I was like, let me put a pin on this and like make note of this and check it out, because that might be going on a future list of mine. But then I watched some gameplay, and it didn't really appeal to me in the way that I wanted it to. Have you heard of it, or have you played it, Dante?
Yeah, I've played through Wonderful 101.
How do you feel about it?
That's probably the closest thing you're going to get to a Viewtiful Joe.
I don't know. I wasn't watching the right videos or whatever, but like, I was even thinking like, I don't know. Like, I would play it maybe, but I wouldn't want to spend what it is right now to,
It's like Bayonetta with a Viewtiful Joe aesthetic, kind of.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just something about the cell shaded like 2D look of Viewtiful Joe that is like really appealing to me. And that game was very colorful, vibrant, and all that, but it didn't have the charm to me that Viewtiful Joe had, and it looked more like polished, like modern. So like I was wondering, like, what is the humor in this game like? And some of the things that I did enjoy about Joe, I don't know if it's in that game. So it's like there are too many things that I want that game to be that I feel like it wouldn't deliver on, that I don't want to be disappointed by expecting it to be this thing and it's not, But that was my take on it. But yeah, I think I never asked you guys, but we've talked about the good. What are some of your nitpicks? And I'll start with you, Trevor. What are some of the things you didn't like about this game?
There are certain aspects of it that just make it feel really long. Like the fodder enemies are more annoying than they are like an object that makes you feel like you're progressing.
Mm-hmm. Highest of keys. Games that throw enemies at you like this, and I'm not trying to like the Ninja Gaidens, the Bayonettas, the Metal Gear Rising. It's just kind of like, I know what my fighting style is. Like, let's get this over with. And I feel like I end up doing the same thing over and over and over and over again.
Because the character design was so well done for the bosses, I feel like they should have done a better job at giving you like fodder enemies that better informed you of like what you were about to be up against with the final boss. Like here, it seemed like they were just throwing the same enemies at you, like regardless of what environment you were in. And then when you get to the final boss, that's when you actually have to employ some kind of strategy, or not necessarily strategy, but go in with the game plan at least.
I feel like, I think they did introduce maybe one or two new enemy types per level, but I don't disagree with you that I wish they were more themed to the level and not just like, oh, now you're fighting the helicopter guys in the submarine. Oh, now you're fighting like I wish it was like more varied. I feel you on that. Anything else? I know you mentioned the zoom in camera.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I think that's it. Those are the two big things.
Okay. So there's no reason why you don't think that you would finish this game, right? As soon as we finish this episode, you're gonna hop on and
it's
just knock it
just
out.
too damn long. No, I actually, while you were talking, I actually made a list of the games that I haven't finished. Hang on, I'm at the last few games. So, Evil Within, Doom, Brutal Legend for obvious reasons,
Wait, so you're saying you didn't finish these games?
Yeah, these are games I didn't finish. Castlevania, Dishonored, Hitman, Shenmue, and Sekiro.
And Viewtiful Joe.
Advance Wars.
Oh, I forgot about Advance Wars. You're right.
You didn't finish Phoenix Wright? Because I don't think you did the fifth.
Oh, well, I finished it after.
Okay.
And there were a couple other games that I finished after we recorded.
Dead Cells.
Did I finish? I guess I didn't. You can finish that game, can't you?
Yeah, did you finish Celeste?
Yes, I did.
Baba is you?
I think I finished that one before we recorded.
Nice. Okay, you finished more than I thought.
I had to prove a point, man. I had to go.
You finished Kentucky Route Zero?
Yeah. It's just the games I'm kind of lukewarm on.
Gotcha.
Of course, I finished Raji.
Oh, you already know. So those are all your nitpicks?
Yeah.
All right. Greg, what about you? What are your nitpicks, the things you did not like about Viewtiful Joe?
The only two things I can think of that come to mind is I feel like the camera angle and well, not in general, but for sure in some of the boss fights is a bit too close. So the attacks that the bosses have, a little bit annoying. In combat, it does come up a few times, but yeah, it comes up more. I guess. And outside of that, I felt like sometimes the way the game checkpoints is a bit annoying because you get a big chunk of it, but at least you don't lose progress you made as far as like currency. Yeah. But it does suck having to go all the way, especially like during the boss rush. I guess you do allows, but
I never want to hear another word about Sekiro not being forgiving. After.
Man,
this game felt more forgiving than Sekiro.
Oh,
Thank you.
Freaking kids are sweet
Thank
or
you.
whatever cherry on top mode that you did.
Nah, I honestly I don't have the same. I didn't have the same issue that you had, Greg, because I mostly died in the game, like excluding the boss rush mode. I died on bosses for the most part, so like I didn't lose progress for the most part. But I could see that being frustrating because that's been frustrating in other games. I'm curious, what bosses were you talking about? You wish that, because I have an idea of what bosses you're talking about. I'm assuming you're talking about the rhino and the shark bosses.
Yep. Well, not the rhino. Well, the rhino wasn't that bad once I kind of figured out how to deal with that. But the shark boss is one, and then
the one where you fight not the clone, but the other Joe.
Yeah, that one.
Okay, so I told Dante this too. One of the things that I don't think Dante did, and I'm guessing you didn't, is listen for the audio cues for when you couldn't see things. So like with the shark, because he's trying to get away from you, there are audio cues that he makes, like when he's doing I'm going to run away from you and start doing the heavy panting, that's when he's getting his health back. There's also when, like, even if you don't see him on the screen doing his chomp attack coming at you, you can hear it. So if you know in your mind, oh, he's on the right side of the screen, and you still hear that chomping, there's good chance that he's coming towards you. But I know, I do understand that because the camera is so close up on Joe and the stage is so large that it can be frustrating. So I'm not downplaying that, but I do think that, like, that was one of the things that I had to train myself to do when I was playing some of these bosses is to use more of the audio cues than I normally would when I'm playing a game.
Well, for like the shark boss, yeah, I did pay attention to the audio cues. I think it still messed me up as far as, like, there were a few times where I didn't see Mike when he would send out enemies. Sometimes I wouldn't be able to.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Right, like sometimes the other part of the picture, you didn't see it because it was happening off screen. So like, even if I did know there was like an audio cue, I didn't necessarily have a indication of what that actually physically did to the enemy because I hadn't seen them.
Yeah, and I get that. But like that's how I learned how to fight that rhino boss that I was telling you about, Dante, because it was just like, I know at some point he charges. I just can't tell when. And then like,
I'll wait until my turn. I'll wait until my turn for that.
And then it'd be just like, I'm just gonna go fast forward to the other side of the level, and sure enough, dude just runs at me, and I'm like, damn, I need to like pay attention to what he's doing because I keep getting hit by this attack. So let me listen to, and then once I like, okay, I'm tired of. It's kind of like I was like fighting game. This is like a fighting game where it's just like I'm losing to this thing. How can I counter this thing? And I can't like look at the person and say, when you do this thing, what are you thinking? It was just kind of like, I keep getting hit by this. What can I use that the game is telling me to avoid getting hit by this? So I definitely took it from like the fighting game approach, and I was just like, okay, like I'm gonna stay within this range of this shark, so I can react to any time he wants to throw those fish at me. I can see what fish are coming, so I can deal with those. If he starts doing the mine thing, I'm just gonna stand right behind a mine, and I'm gonna try to do my best to stand horizontal to him, so I don't have to deal with that. I know that Dante ran into an issue where he was trying to punch the mines into the shark's mouth.
I
And
didn't even think about trying that.
he was getting very frustrated because I don't think the game, which I think Dante's
I never
strategy,
saw the shark just swallow one willy-nilly.
yeah, like Dante's strategy was really good. I had never thought about that, and it was very frustrating, and I was frustrated for him that strategy didn't work as eloquently as you would think it did. I'm willing to bet that would be something that they would tweak if they ever remastered this game.
It's one of those It's one of those. I guess maybe it's my fault for thinking
Being
too
too
much
smart.
as like a game designer person, but like the fact that I could interact with the bombs indicated to me that I needed to interact with the bombs, and that was
you were
the
100%
exact
right.
opposite.
You were 100% right, and like I think the only reason I didn't was because I remember fighting this boss, and I remember I for whatever reason I was like, when I saw the shark boss for the first time, I was like, I don't remember his attacks, but I think there's something with the mine, and he has to swallow a mine or eat a mine or something. And then sure enough, I was like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm not finna touch one of these mines because I don't want it to blow up. But Dante was like, I'm going to touch one of these mines. I'm going to blow this dude up.
Until they stop working, and then I'm like, well, I guess I'm just supposed to avoid them, so I intentionally found spots without mines, which that battle takes a very long time.
When you don't do the mines, it takes a long time. So like I definitely I was frustrated for Dante because he had a smart solution to the problem, but wasn't getting rewarded for finding that solution. Because the game designers didn't intend for you to do it that way.
Yeah, if I can go ahead and like jump into my
go ahead.
critique, like one of my biggest critiques was like, I like what they were trying for all the bosses, but all the bosses, like as far as what they wanted you to do against them, in my opinion, felt so one note. Like when I was going against the Magnificent Five or whatever it was, when I was fighting the Rhino boss, like. I've beaten the Rhino boss before.
Wait, I'm sorry to cut you off.
Mm-hmm.
Can you, because we've mentioned it, referenced it a couple times already, can you just explain what the Magnificent Five is for the people that are listening?
So it's the boss rush of this game where you fight 4 of the 5 previous main bosses that you've encountered, and then they add a new one on at the very end, which if you don't beat the 4, like you have to get through the first 4, and then you get checkpointed, otherwise you go back to the very beginning.
And the reason why it's so difficult in comparison to when you fight them earlier is because when you're fighting them earlier in the game, you're fighting them at the end of a level, so you have like really high VFX meters, so you can just like you have like a lot longer time either to use your abilities, but you're only fighting these bosses, so you have you're the smallest amount of VX meter that you can possibly have. And on top of that, they are, I don't remember what the story reason is, but for whatever reason, they're stronger because I think they're made from stone statues or something. So they're like statues dedicated to these villains that you have already defeated. So they have like 2 to 3 times more health than they did the first time you fought them. So not only are they stronger, but you have less power at your disposal, I guess I would say. So go ahead now. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess the other point worth mentioning is when you fight them before, since you're at a checkpoint, you essentially have infinite lives to go at them with. Whereas here, if you die, you typically start with 3 lives, I think. And
Yeah.
if you lose all 3 of your lives, you go back to the beginning of the boss rush, which means you have to fight the bat, you have to fight the rhino, you have to fight the shark, you have to fight the clone of yourself, or whatever you want to call it. So that just kind of adds to the frustration and amount of time. I think for Marcus, it literally doubled your playtime, didn't it? Just about.
Yeah. So I think I had a save file where I had died. They consider dies when you use all 3 of your lives, kind of like Zelda, I guess, and you can see it on your save file. I think when I started, I had 5 deaths going into the Magnificent Five, and I think when I finally won and beat it, I was at 17 or 19 or something like that. And like, these aren't short runs either. Like, I think every time I played was about 40 minutes to an hour of game time. So every single one of those deaths. So it was like, I literally, like, there was one Saturday that I started the Saturday on the Magnificent Five, and I think I woke up early, and I was like, it was like 7:30 or 8:30 or something like that. And I was like, I'm just going to play some Viewtiful Joe. And I think I played it for 3 hours, didn't make any progress, went to go do some other stuff, came back in the afternoon, played for about 3-4 more hours, didn't make any progress. Like, later on that day, I played some more, didn't make any progress, and then that night, I was like 11 p.m. I got back on and I played, and I think I finished and beat it at 2 something in the morning. And so like I had like 4 2.5 to 3 hour sessions of playing just this one level. And all the time when I wasn't playing, like if I wasn't hanging out with my wife or doing whatever, I was doing reading on like what I was doing wrong. And like by the end of the day, I was just like, holy shit, this stuff is so tough. Let me see what the strategy is. Like, because I was like, I've beaten these bosses before. Like, I know how to defeat them, but for whatever reason, the way I'm playing, I'm just like not doing any damage. And that's when I learned the if you zoom in and hold the punch button, you do, I think the move is called Red Hot 100 or something like that. And that and slow down does way more damage than if you zoom in, slow down, and just do punch and just keep tapping the punch button for whatever reason. And that is something, so when Trevor was talking about the tutorial earlier today, or earlier in this episode, like that was something that I would not have ever known about if I had not read a strategy on this game, because at no point was it ever explained. And that was very frustrating. But then from there, I got like the strategy, because at that point I could like realistically and consistently beat the first 4 bosses. It was like it was really just that last boss that I was having issues with. The last 2, I would say. And then once I got that strategy and I was like, okay, this is how I do the most amount of damage. Now at this point, it's just, it's just not getting hit. And then like from that point, it became less of like a Sekiro game. And then to me, it was more like Punch Out, where it was just like, I know these enemies' patterns now. I know when I can do the most amount of damage. I know if I hit them at this point, I'm gonna get this award or whatever, this reward. So like it became more of Punch Out for me at the end. So like even though I was frustrated, it was kind of fun because I was like pattern recognition, and that's something I do enjoy.
See, I thought it was incredibly unfun. Like, I was struggling a little bit with those bosses. Like, I went in kind of late. I streamed all the game to twitch.tv/misscheckpoints. And got there, spent about 90 minutes the first night, kind of just struggling, mostly on the Rhino guy. And then Marcus told me one thing, literally one thing, and I'm like, I'm never going to get hit by this guy again. It's so dumb. Like,
Yep.
essentially all you do is he has a sweeping attack where he just essentially does a low attack on Joe, and all you got to do is dodge up. If you dodge up exactly 3 times, not any more, not any less, no indicator whatsoever that, dodging is doing anything to some invisible stagger meter, he will then charge the wall. And once he charges the wall, all you got to do is zoom in, punch, and do that
Hella
like
damage.
3 times. And literally every boss in the game is like that, where like I went from, struggling to get to the 4th boss to the very next day beating it on my first try, and also realizing I will never lose to these bosses again because they are they are so one note, and the patterns are so trivial. Like it almost doesn't make sense how they're designed, in my opinion. But
Yeah, it just seems like that's just kind of like old school, like boss.
Yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. I don't know. Like I didn't really. I didn't like the not being able to save in between and like that part, but I get it. I understand, but it's just like this is not like. I went from being really high on this game to like this kind of killed the momentum I had for the game after that. And like that was very disappointing because I was ready for this to be like this is like one of my 2-3 favorite games we played this year, and like after doing the Magnificent Five and everything, like it don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the pattern recognition of it, but the struggle of getting to that point was so frustrating that it's not in my top 5, you know, like and I did get that enjoyment that probably Dante gets though when I was watching him play, because I'm like, I have the answers, I'm not gonna like tell him, but it's interesting to see how somebody else approaches this thing that I now know how to do, and just, you know, being able to be there to provide guidance and like kind of like what he did for me with Sekiro, like being able to do that for him was kind of entertaining / rewarding. So like it was cool to like be on the other side of that, because normally I'm always the one struggling. So it was nice to see Dante be human for a change.
So I normally like games that punish me, and like I don't mind that they were throwing me back. There's just some fundamental things with this game I agree with. Like, I really do think 16:9 would have helped this game immensely.
Hey man, you can ask for that on the.
Say that earlier.
You can ask for that on the remaster.
I mean, you guys can enjoy the remaster.
I would.
Yeah, it's just I didn't really enjoy the bosses per se. I enjoyed most of the regular enemies up until you got to the guys in the like berets and like the ones that kind of just broke the rules that you had been taught up to that point of like if you dodge an enemy, they're gonna stagger or whatever.
Oh yeah, you can hit this enemy twice, but then he's gonna go into an invincible roll, and then you have to just wait until he does his thing.
Right, or you're slow-mo attacking somebody, and they're like, "Nah, bro, let me attack you instead."
Yeah.
Without any like any type of chance for you to recover, or I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you don't fight too many of them. It was just kind of frustrating. But overall, I think the game's good. It's just there's a lot of frustrating aspects to me.
I agree with that. I guess my nitpicks, kind of the Magnificent Five, that kind of killed a lot of the momentum I had with this game. I didn't really care for the sub level, just how long it was either. But like that Magnificent Five, like was just like it just killed so much momentum I had and so much enjoyment I had with the game, and it also kind of just like I thought artificially lengthened the game for no reason, because I was just like, I'm really cool with this game being like a 6-hour, 7-hour game, like that's completely fine. But I felt like they were like, well, we need to make it a little bit longer to justify the price point it's at. So let's go ahead and just add this little boss rush mode that we're sure is going to give people issues or whatever. I will say that like I don't even feel like I got better at combat or like the things that you would expect something like that to improve on the player. Like I didn't get better at combat. It was literally I got better at fighting against that one boss. And so that kind of echoing what Dante said, like there was such specific ways that you dealt with these bosses that was outside, or like I shouldn't even say dealt with these bosses, but like once you knew the way to deal with this boss, you would just keep doing that over and over again. And I don't think it really affected or improved how I played the game or approached the game other than that. So that was disappointing. But that's really it. I didn't like the ending, or I shouldn't say the ending, like the last level. I did not enjoy that level either. Especially that beginning part where you're just fighting like an endless amount of enemies and everything that you touched did damage to you. Like I don't know. I didn't really care for that. I didn't like that was the one time to me where the camera angle was a problem when you were jumping from those huge heights to do that little ground slam. And like if you were just a pixel off and you didn't hit the thing just right, or you didn't have enough slowdown meter, then you weren't going to fill up the gauge. And like, so that wasn't fun to me. But other than that, I did enjoy the game. I don't think I normally do, but I even enjoyed the vehicle level in this game. It was like, it took me a little bit to get used to it, like the one where you're in the six machine. But I did enjoy that level as well. And I do think this will go well. Do you guys have any questions or anything before we close this show out? I like how I said we're going to have a short episode, and then we had like 45 minutes of questions.
I don't think I mentioned it earlier, but like that submarine level when you're trying to escape it and it's like turning, like you have to navigate it 3 times. And I think one time is like, level, and then the second time it's upside down, and the third time it's vertical. So that was pretty cool to me.
Yeah. Okay. One other thing, I guess, or 2 other things. Did you guys have a favorite and least favorite boss? These are rapid fire ones, so we can wrap the show up. Did you have a favorite and least favorite boss, Greg?
I'm trying to think. Least favorite boss is the other looking dude.
The purple one or another Joe?
Another Joe. Yeah, okay. That one. Actually, no, the purple dude might be more.
So Alistair, the Blade Master Alistair?
Yeah, that might be a little more annoying.
Okay.
And favorite one, I'd probably say...
So you had Dark Fiend, so Charles the Bat, Hulk Davidson is the ogre, or the rhino, Grand Bruce was the shark, another Joe, Blade Master Alistair, whatever, and Fire Leo.
Okay, Fire Leo, I think that's the ones I think.
And then the King Blue.
Yeah, I think Fire Leo. That's probably my favorite one. Probably.
What about you, Trevor?
I don't think I really had a favorite or least favorite. They were all pretty much about the same, on the same level to me.
Okay. What about you, Dante?
Guess I'd go with Alistair for maybe. That felt like the actual most fight.
Mm-hmm. Least favorite?
And I got some. I don't know. That's a difficult one.
Fire Leo?
He was frustrating for a variety of reasons. Yeah, let's go Fire Leo. Fine.
Okay. I have like a soft spot. Like, you ever you hear a sound and it completely gives you nostalgia and jogs your memory? That was me when I was playing the mansion level. I think it was the mansion level, and it's when you're getting to the rhino, and he's like, Davidson is in the house, and that part. It was I had not heard that in 15 years. It jogged so much nostalgia for me. It was crazy because I remember I don't know. It was just something about that sound of him yelling, because he kept yelling his name every time you got to a certain spot on the level, and you're doing some platforming, and if you fall, then you have to, do it over again. And I kept falling. I guess when I played this game before, so every time you do that second jump, it triggers that voice line, and I must have heard that voice line 50 times before this year, and so it was just deep within the recesses of my mind. And so when I heard that, I just immediately just had the weirdest nostalgia, and it was just oh my god, I haven't heard this thing in so long. What the heck? And I didn't even know it was a boss or anything, but it was just kind of when I heard that, I was just whoa, that was really weird. But I think my favorite boss was probably the Fire Leo, just because I really liked I really liked the premise behind it, I guess. And then probably my least favorite fight was the last boss. Mostly when you were in that big mode, because I could not figure out how to dodge some of his attacks. I always took damage on specific attacks that he did, and I just couldn't figure out how to avoid them.
That one was pretty frustrating. You're talking about the mech part, not the...
Yeah,
I mean, both parts were annoying, because Blue himself started getting faster as you started doing stuff, and it kind of became unreasonable at the very, very end there.
Yeah,
But
it was something to do with when he dropped those satellites down and like, or he had to drop something down, and it just started like every
yeah,
time.
I
It
know what
hit
you're
me.
talking about. It's like this black satellite thing, and then he'll shoot missiles at you. And the thing that I learned is if he drops one of those and you see it on screen, you fast forward over to it
And
and
destroy
you
it
try to beat
immediately.
it up. If you don't fast forward over to it, you're going to get hit by lightning for sure. Then if you don't beat it up within a certain time, he's going to shoot those missiles at you, and they're probably going to hit you.
Yeah, it was just like it was very frustrating. So I didn't like that because I was like, I vowed to myself, I was like, I just beat the Magnificent Five. Damn it, I'm good at this game, which was not true. But I was just like, I'm not about to lose on this final boss hella times like I did the Magnificent Five. There's no way. And I think I only died on him like 3 times. But I was just like, I'm not dying another. I'm not spending another 7 hours or 10 hours playing this last boss. I refuse. My other question was, what was your favorite and least favorite stage? Again, rapid fire. I think my favorite stage was probably the one with the buses, where you had to do that bus against that ridiculous jump. I really like that level. And then probably my least favorite level was the sub level. I did really like the vehicle level. I enjoyed that too.
Least favorite was and
The vehicle one.
yeah. I actually like the sub one. I think that was probably I kind of like the aspect having to like, but
I like
can see
that
how
part.
it's
I just didn't like dealing with the missile.
oh yeah.
And I didn't like I'm not really a fan of like hurry up and get out of this thing before it explodes. I'm not really a fan of those type of things in games either. So like you had to escape the sub when it was vertical.
Did you also not like that train part too? The train before.
Yeah, not really. The subway thing. Yeah. I did mess up on that, and I like just straight up like I think I had to redo that one once or twice. What about you, Dante?
I don't know. I don't really have a favorite per se. I think the train was a little bit frustrating with the time limit, but I mean, all considered, like I'd rather redo that little 3-minute segment or whatever it was versus 15-minute segments I had to redo.
Yeah.
I did think the vehicle sequences were done pretty good. Like I enjoyed flying the 6 machine.
What about you, Trevor?
Yeah, I think I mentioned my favorite one was the submarine level, and probably my least favorite, like Greg, was the what you call it,
The 6 machine level, the flying level.
I'm really glad they only put one of those in there, unless there's one after.
No, there's
Okay,
not. There's not.
then yeah.
All right. Well, that will wrap it up. Greg, great game, great experience.
I'll say good game.
Okay. Trevor, great game, great experience.
I'll say good game, fun experience.
Oh, and I'm sorry, Greg. You said you would be interested in playing Viewtiful Joe 2, but only if it was through the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not gonna get it if it. You know,
What if they did like, okay, we're gonna put out Viewtiful Joe 2 remaster, and we've announced Viewtiful Joe 3. Would you?
Okay, yeah, maybe I'll do it then.
Okay, what about you, Trevor? I know you said you haven't finished Viewtiful Joe 1, so you don't want to see how it ends, but would you play Viewtiful Joe 2 just if nothing happened, and then would you play Viewtiful Joe 2 if you knew a third one was coming out?
You're saying if I finish Viewtiful Joe 1 and it doesn't change my opinion of it, would I want to play Viewtiful Joe 2?
A sequel. Yeah.
How long is it?
Honestly, I think they're the same length. I think it just depends on how good you are at the game.
Like, is the experience going to be pretty much the same, or do they add more mechanics to it?
I from what I've read, I haven't done a whole lot of reading on the sequel, but like they fine tune, some of the aspects of the game. I don't know if like the camera issues or anything like that gets addressed, but some things are different. I can't tell you what though.
Yeah, that would be my only condition.
What if what if they announced the third game? Would you be more inclined, or you'd still?
I'd probably check out the third game over the second game just because I'm sure they've modernized some of the controls
Modernized?
and
Sure, sure. All right. What about you, Dante? Great game, great experience.
It's a good game, good experience.
And so you said you would have interest in playing Viewtiful Joe 2, but on your own time. Is that something that you'll do, or is it just something you would think about?
That's a good question. I mean, it's been sitting on my shelf for at least a decade now, but that's not to say that I wouldn't get around to. Would I be likely to play a Viewtiful Joe 3? I think I'd be much more like, I'd play Viewtiful Joe 2 before 3 if a 3 ever did happen, but I do have confidence that Platinum has become a much better team 2003
Fair.
or whenever this came out,
Yeah.
so I think they would address probably most of my complaints.
Honestly, I'm wondering if this would be very similar to like the No More Heroes, where it's like if No More Heroes 3 wasn't coming out or hadn't come out, I'd be less interested in 2. But now that it has, I'm like, okay, I want to eventually get to 3, so I need to see what's up with 2. That's how I feel about it. So like I think I do like Viewtiful Joe this first game. So I think that I'm like I said, I'm kicking myself for having only bought the first game and not gotten the second one as well because there are enough bundles of the games on eBay. So I'll just have to pick up the second game and hope that they announce a trilogy, or the third game. And obviously for me, I would say this is a great game and pretty good experience. Again, I didn't really care for the last level, and like I said, the Magnificent Five kind of soured my experience with the game, because otherwise I would really, really enjoy this game. And I will say, obviously I'm a huge Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3 fan, and Viewtiful Joe was in Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. I did not play that, but every time we play a game that has a character from Marvel vs. Capcom, or every time I do, I'm amazed by how well they translate the character to that game. Every single time. He has the shocking pink, the bombs. He has the boomerang. You do it the same exact way where you hold the button. His animation, he has his slide. He has his upper. He has sex machine, or the six machine. Like, he has, like, all of that stuff. He has this. He literally has, like, you guys were talking about him not having range on his attacks. He literally doesn't have range on his attacks in Marvel vs. Capcom 3 because everybody else is so much lankier and, like, their normal size, and he's, like, his weird, awkward proportion self. But I just, like, he was always a character that I was interested in playing in the game. I just never picked him up because he was such a niche character and he didn't fit with the characters that I really enjoyed playing. But I think that they did a really good job of recreating him, and I just felt like it was, worth shouting out that they did a great job. So, where can people find you at, Greg?
You can find me on Twitter at BoomboxHero whenever I decide to finally.
All right. Where can people find you at, Trevor?
you can find me on the internet at Lyric Unsung.
Well, where can people find you at, Dante?
People can find me at twitch.tv/awakencloud or potentially streaming on Miss Checkpoint's Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Miss Checkpoints occasionally.
Without saying the game, do you intend to stream our next month's game?
I have started streaming that. That one I'm doing on my channel right now, but
Okay.
I have been streaming.
Okay, I will have to check it out. I need to start it this weekend. I'm looking forward to it.
Since we're already in the games month, can we go ahead and say what our next lineup is? I don't think we formally announced it, have we?
Do we want to? So we had some other plans. Trevor, do you? Are we any closer to those things happening, or?
Don't believe so. I've got to send you some stuff to get your feedback on before we reveal it.
All right. Well, we can go ahead and say it. If you want to say it, Dante, you can.
Well, now I'm confused because
Oh well, we were going to unveil it with some other unveilings, but
All
there
right.
was
Well,
been-
we can unveil that stuff later. We can unveil the games now.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
probably know the game list better than I do. I just know our immediate future.
So for September, this is Dante's game, and we will be playing Trauma Team. For October, it is Greg's game, and we'll be playing Resident Evil HD Remake, spooky game. For Trevor's game for November, we will be playing No Straight Roads. And to close out the year, we'll be playing my game, Thumper, in December. I do owe you guys I've been slacking. I do owe you guys a game for a bonus podcast because we've only done 2 this year. So I had a couple in mind. I was gonna throw to you guys, and I just kept putting it off and forgetting about it. But I will try to. I had a plan or an idea, but it just depended if you guys were down or not. So we can talk about that offline. But yeah, be on the lookout. So Dante will be streaming Trauma Team. He sounds like he said he's been streaming it on his. He may stream it on the Missed Checkpoints Twitch page. So be on the lookout for that, and maybe you'll see 1, 2, or a few of us in the chat. Cause I might be creeping on him, getting some secret Trauma Team tech. So, yeah, and you can find me on Facebook and Twitter at Potato Salad. If you like tuning into Missed Checkpoints to find out about hidden gems, called classics, and indie games, and share us with your friends, family, and the not shitty subreddit communities you're in. Comment on our Facebook page, add us on Twitter, leave us a review, preferably 5 stars on Apple Podcasts so we can appear higher in the leisure category. You guys have anything else? All right, with that, we're out. Henshin-A-Go-Go, baby.